Welcome, everyone, to number 79 of the Tesla Beat. The year is winding down, but as much as Brian's tree in the back, it's been very festive. You know, we have things lighting up all the time with Tesla. It's just, I'm still just shocked every week. There's just something new going on or something that Tesla is sharing. And so, thank you, Brian, Hans, and Joe for being here. Well, let's get into it. So, shout out again to Joe for the amazing grok work here. Um, for a lot of us, we are constantly just bull riding and getting rid of the bears. I have not heard too many bears other than maybe Gordon Johnson, I think he's like the only bear that I still know of.
Well,
But
he's the only one who actually doesn't have any vested interest in the stock. So his passion is based on something very different. A lot of the bears have moved on because they got run out of town by their own poor financial decisions. There's only so much you can short when it goes to the moon, and I don't know anyone who wouldn't have been shaken out by the prices we're seeing. Certainly this week, but definitely today.
Man, for real.
And with that said, I mean, just last week you had $374 versus the 427 today. So I mean, you're talking it's in a week, it's pretty much up 14%. That's just crazy. I think for those that may be just tuning in, sounds like people even from Denmark are tuning in, but people, we were down negative 40% this year. And so to go to almost being positive, but doubling the positive amount that it was down was just, it's been crazy. I mean, and this is all, and I think and you guys, keep me honest here, but like, I think with Tesla, a lot of the run ups and even things that cause it to go down, there's not always something specific to it. I mean, obviously, you'll have an earnings call that actually seemed great and it's down, but a lot of times like this run up, I mean, obviously we've had Trump winning, and I think there's just a lot of positivity as far as like what analysts are thinking and believing that impact is going to have on companies and even Tesla specifically. But it is just crazy to see just how much it's run up in literally 6 weeks if you just look at that. So yeah, it's a good time to be a Tesla bull. That's all I can say.
If we're trying to figure out who's buying, the one easy answer is, well, you and me, people like us, the retail people who have a renewed sense of optimism, have seen a lot of the news that we're going to get into today and said this means that this is real moving forward. But I think part of it too is institutionals have been so dreadfully underweight Tesla for so long. They've been waiting for a good time to get in, and of course you can't buy it when it's going down, because then it's too risky, and you can't buy it when it's going up because you missed the dip. At some point you just have to buy it, and maybe that point is now.
So it's funny you say that because right now, Alexandra, Tesla Boomer Mama, just posted there's something she said I keep telling y'all, and there's a few of the PMs that were underweight Tesla relative to their benchmark. It worked for so long and everyone got complacent. Now they're all scrambling amongst each other to increase their allocation while long-term holders refuse to sell and the fundamentals play out. So yeah, there's a lot of fund managers that are trying to get in because they were just like kind of downplaying it for so long and hoping that it would, continue that downplay. But as we know, the fundamentals never change for Tesla, and people who were kind of banking on something else happening or things playing out like Elon ruining the company or whatever, nothing changed the fundamentals. Nothing changed the hardcore work ethic of all the employees that we've met and that we've seen. Like, they still work hard every day. And so that never changed. And now everybody's kind of scrambling to keep up. We still have over 50% though.
Yeah. Well, what else did we see this week? Optimus, we'll just play, I believe, here, let's see. Yeah, it's about a 35-second video. that I'm gonna just play real quick, and we'll get into it. But essentially, you see Optimus walking around outside at the Palo Alto engineering headquarters. So up here, he's just walking up a hill. Looks like while the sun's setting. And I think people don't realize is that he's doing this blindfolded. So he is not doing it with pure vision and looking at what's in front of him.
Does that look as bad quality as it does for? Oh, that was a horrible download, or maybe upload to the stream. And this comes the extra.
That one was, I think that's what everyone's watching, is the fact that it was able to catch itself and not stumble, even though, again, it was blindfolded. But what is, I think, again, Elon mentioned some commentary from him and one of the employees. He forgot to mention that Optimus was doing this while he was blindfolded, and we haven't yet made vision part of the control loop for uneven terrain. Optimus robots are regularly cruising around our workplace in Palo Alto, where vision is used in static and dynamic object avoidance. And then I think I can't even see it. I think it's Milan. Tesla is where real world AI is happening. These runs are on mulched ground where I've myself slipped before. What's really crazy here is that for these, Optimus is actually blind, keeping its balance without video yet, only on onboard sensors consumed by neural net, running at 2 to 3 milliseconds on its embedded computer. Sorry, I can't even see that tweet. But long story short, it was crazy. They displayed this. Optimus is walking on uneven terrain, and he's blindfolded. But what did you guys think of that this week?
So my question for you guys would be, we've been talking about the total addressable market, but what I've never thought to ask is, what is the total addressable work area? Factories don't have uneven ground, broken terrain. How much bigger did Optimus's playground just get?
Yeah, it got a lot better. And one of the other aspects of this is that if they can train in these environments that are difficult to operate in, then even if they are only going to operate in the factory, it just makes them that much more adaptable, that much more flexible. And especially, if you're operating in the factory, maybe it's hard for you to actually learn how to fall gracefully. Maybe it's hard for you to develop, the full coordination that you need of the entire body with one single neural net algorithm that allows you really to be as robust as a human in that environment. Because even humans who work in factories, of course, we don't learn how to walk and how to carry things only in factories. We learn those things throughout our life in all kinds of different operating areas. And so, yeah, I mean, it's both. It's the fact that this will make it better in the factories, but if you can walk up and down slippery terrain outside, then hey, that means that when you need to deliver a pizza through the snow, maybe you can do that. And it's really cool to see what they've done here. I mean, when you first see this, you're like, oh, like, hey, it's cool. Like, this is something it couldn't do before. Now it can do that. That's nice. But I mean, it doesn't look that impressive. But then you realize, oh, wait a second, it's blindfolded. And like, oh, like I would probably look retarded walking down that hill blindfolded too. So then it becomes a lot more impressive what they've been able to do.
And this solves the banana peel test. I know it's a classic staple of comedy, but there can be slipping hazards in a factory environment. And if something simple on the ground like a banana peel can take down a bot where it wouldn't take down a human, then again, the total addressable workspace becomes that much bigger.
Yeah, I think the entire video just showed what a lot of people were curious about without actually stating, that in some of their responses. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, all the video looked amazing when it was like on flat ground and in the factory floor and, all these things and it walking around and like, that's all cool. But to see it outside and to see it slipping and catching itself, and then to realize like it was blindfolded the entire time, and they don't even, I mean, that's just like, it's what they're doing is pretty incredible. I mean, yeah, it's not doing backflips and none of that crap that Boston Dynamics has done for like a decade, but what they are doing is what nobody else is really doing. You haven't seen robots, you know, walking by themselves on any uneven terrain, slipping and catching themselves like anybody. Nobody has done that. So it's pretty awesome. And to put it all in perspective, this is literally the worst it will ever be for what they are doing right now. This is the worst it will ever be, and that's incredible to think about.
Oh, Hans, were you going to say something?
I can say something.
Go for it.
This is an achievement that we've seen, like Joe mentioned, other robotics companies do before, kind of. But we haven't seen humanoids with full body control using purely neural nets in a robot form factor that is intended to be mass produced yet. That's like, there are parts of this that it seems like, oh yeah, like whatever, this is no big deal because someone else has already done that before. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything special. But when you realize that this hardware is designed specifically to be made in the thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even millions of units per year run rate, and that this hardware that's designed for that is able to do that both from a, like a physical standpoint, but then the computer and then the software architecture as well, that's where it is different. It is a breakthrough. And so that is something that a lot of the humanoid robot companies are pursuing. And the other part about this is that the space for humanoid robotics, like there's so many different things to do. Like any one of the companies can focus on a specific thing and be like, hey, we're the leader in this thing, because like there's so many different things that it can and should do that not everyone is going to focus on the same things at the same time in the same order. But basically one of the things that you can take away is anything that any of them can do, the best of them will be able to do eventually as well. And and the Optimus platform being the most scalable platform, having the best design for manufacturing, having one of the best AI teams available to them, it's just fun to watch them continue to be able to push this project forward and think about what the future looks like when we do have, potentially one of these per human as your robot buddy to help you do all kinds of things in your daily life.
There were a lot of people who would say after the first and second and all of the Optimus demos, yeah, but Boston Dynamics is still better because it can do parkour. And I don't know about you, but when I'm looking to hire an employee, parkour is not on my list. Boston Dynamics didn't even have hands yet. And you're trying to tell me that it's somehow more advanced for general purpose. Yes. And you got to remember whenever you see a new demo, like a big official one where they roll out all the fancy stuff to show you what's going on, that is not only their latest and greatest from each company, but it is also incredibly cherry picked. It's like trying to compare your friend's Instagram to your own actual life. Your own actual life is probably better than theirs. They're just showing you the highlights.
Well, not only that, but Boston Dynamics, what people fail to realize is that, well, yeah, like you said, it wasn't like for mass producing, but also those were pre-programmed movements. It wasn't autonomous. It wasn't doing it on its own. It doesn't have a brain, is what I'm saying. So it's just way different use cases. I always thought of Boston Dynamics as being for military use, which that never happened. And I don't know how that could happen for like over a decade of them making that robot and all those things they could do, and nobody ever uses one instead of the soldiers, but whatever. But yeah, it's not, they're different use cases, not really the same. You're looking at something with a brain that's doing its own, walking on its own. These are not like a program jump over this and flip back over this and those type of things. So it's, yeah, not even in the same league. And I really don't think people really understand. Again, we are at the beginning of this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, one thing I was gonna say, I was on a space with Sawyer and Whole Mars. They host something called We Talk. Either way, I was just talking about how Tesla will tackle things very similar to how humans tackle things, right? And when you look at how they why is that? Okay, I don't know why that auto set. I had like this touch up appearance, but either way, um, when you look at how Tesla tackles things, it's like it literally they're trying to make this thing as close to humans as possible. And when you look at the way that Tesla uses pure vision, they're doing it trying to make it as close to the human eye as possible. Same thing with the Tesla robot's hand. They're trying to make it as flexible and as dynamic as the human hand. And so it's like they use the human as almost the benchmark for what they're trying to work on. And more importantly, like, this is a Tesla team. I don't know exactly what's going on with how they recorded this video, but I can tell you, did they have a whole film crew and everybody and their mom outside? It was probably some engineer who went outside, took his iPhone, out and was just recording it and going. And then they probably just clipped it up a little bit together. And that's pretty much it. But I think that's what everyone sleeps on when it comes to Tesla is Tesla builds to scale. They build to tackle it from a general perspective. They are not tackling it kind of like you guys both. I think we were all calling out the fact that a lot of these companies will tackle something for one specific use case. Like you'll build a robot that can just be good for fast food or for military or for being your roommate in college or whatever it is. But that's, I think, that what everyone is sleeping on when it comes to the Tesla bot and really what Tesla's doing. And that's what is just going to be crazy about this is that here's this bot walking around outside, completely blindfolded, not even using the probably the better half of the two. But if it's able to walk on uneven ground blindfolded, I mean, I can't even do that. And I'm getting close to at some point I'll be 40. And like I almost slip here and there, as I'm just like walking through some bushes and other things like that. And this thing might at some point be able to walk better than humans. And where are they testing it? I mean, I think in those posts we read, it's walking around the factories, it's walking around the office. And these are very fluid and dynamic situations at work. And this is the place that you want to be testing it at. I mean, imagine if you're just testing it at a really nice facility or something like that. Again, that's the thing that separates Tesla from the rest.
I just love that your example was to be a college roommate. This summer, Tom Holland and Optimus in I Roommate. It's going to be great. I would watch that. I'm not going to lie.
But yeah, I think what Tesla's doing with the robot is truly just one of a kind and really, really exciting for what the future will hold. And as Joe said, this is just the beginning. This is the worst that it will ever be. All right. So I think the next big thing, we all knew that, well, I think when you think of like companies that were ahead of the game, and that we're actually doing, self-driving cars, at least in certain areas, people would think of Waymo and then Cruise, right? We all know what happened with Cruise. It like ran over a person and there was it was a pretty graphic video, but you could see the person pretty much wailing underneath the vehicle. And that was pretty much, in my opinion, I thought that the company would not just throw in the towel after that, but essentially that's what they did because there was mass exodus of people there. But I was just pretty surprised that they would, again, throw in the towel. But here this week, I think the headline was GM exits robotaxi market and will bring Cruise operations in-house. And then I think, again, the co-founder of Cruise, I mean, this is why I love X. I mean, the co-founder of Cruise was like, in case it was unclear before, it is clear now. GM are a bunch of dummies. And that's where the tea continued to stir. But, again, it just goes to show how hard this is. I think what this is going to set the precedence for is people will license Tesla's full self-driving pro software, and that, like the NACS, will become the standard. But what did you guys think? Sorry for that long rant.
I mean, go ahead, Joe. You go first.
I think it's just one of those type of things that, as retail investors, we saw this like a long time ago, and we knew Mary Barra wasn't leading anything. We knew what it was. We knew what was happening, and it just. My only thing is, I just am not sure that people will license the Tesla, software. I think it's one of those things that the hubris of some of these companies is what's really telling right now. They will choose to invest in anything as long as it's not Elon Musk. And they're spending a lot of money doing it. Like the $1 trillion drone, for instance, is a prime example. And like that tunnel that they want to build to go across the ocean for like trillions of dollars when Elon can do it for billions. I mean, all these things are just like prime examples of, you have somebody who has amassed a team that specializes in all of these things, and they are knocking it out of the park. Not to mention, like, they are here in America. They they are. This is like putting American jobs at work, and they are just trying to avoid him at all costs. I mean, it's going to become inevitable that they have to go to him eventually, but it's just wild to see that GM is doing this so late. I mean, it took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. I thought like immediately after the kerfuffle, it was gonna like just be evident, but I mean, they wrote it out, and all of the stuff that Mary Barra has said and claimed, $50 billion a year, and we're going to be doing this and we're going to be doing that, and nobody is calling her a liar for any of those claims. Nobody is saying that. Whereas, you know what I mean? And if Elon Musk said anything remotely close to that and didn't hit the numbers or whatever, they'd be like, "Oh, and you lied." But nobody is calling her out for any of the claims that she said about Cruise and all that stuff before, and what GM was going to be doing with freaking the, I mean, their Ultium platform. Nobody's calling her out for any of the lies that she told, and all that.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It came in investor dollars, and people put more money into the company, and she never capitalized on any of that.
So what I would say is the March of Nines caught up with Mary. The March of Nines, and we hear this phrase a lot, but what we're talking about is the first year you're working on autonomous vehicles, you get 90% of the way done. You're very excited. We're going to have this in another year or two. The next year comes, you're at 99%. You guys, we're going to make this. This is going to be like next year, definitely the year after. Then you're at 99.9 and you're not there. And you just keep adding nines without ever hitting 100%. Mary does not understand the magnitude of the challenge, and I don't fault her for that. I think no one understands the magnitude of the challenge until they get into it themselves. So what happened is Mary probably went to the engineers and said, "Is our approach like the competition?" And they said, "Yeah, kind of. I mean, it's a little different. Everyone's approach is a little different." Great. Is it going to get there? Yeah. Our approach is definitely going to. I mean, look at how many nines we already have. 100 can't be that far off, except it is. And then you reach a point where you realize, and we saw this with Investor Day when Tesla showed the occupancy network, how we have our AI negotiate an intersection. This is how we do it. And at that point, several companies threw in the towel because their approach was nowhere near as sophisticated. And they understood if Tesla's results are still just pretty good, not perfect, despite this ocean of advantage in terms of training, in terms of compute, and in terms of approach, we don't stand a chance. In that regard, Mary was very late to that party, but I don't know if she goes to many parties. I don't feel like I'd invite her.
Hans, you want to say something?
Yeah, I've got a little screen pulled up if you want to put that up real quick. This is my only comment. Remember this? Tesla way down there at the bottom, Cruise way up there at the top.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't age well. That didn't age well.
It wasn't fresh when it was posted.
That's true.
Yeah, this is bad. And and NVIDIA, I mean, do they actually have a team or do they just provide parts for others?
Yeah, they're just a supplier.
Yeah.
It was kind of weird.
But they're a contender.
Yeah, right. It's strong.
Tesla's following. They're doing everything this like the same way as everybody else, but worse.
Terrible execution, no strategy to speak of. And yet, how many dollars will Tesla's autonomous approach bring in this month? Because all of the subscriptions count. Forget the sales, because some portion of the sales are still deferred, but for the actual recurring revenue, that all counts. That hits the books when it is logged. So I would argue that Tesla's probably generating more revenue already than all of the other US players combined.
Hey, Tesla has a shot, you guys.
I don't know.
Tesla,
We'll see.
Tesla has a shot.
Well,
Dark horse.
I wouldn't buy the stock. I mean, I can't afford to anymore. It's so much per share.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just for me, it was just seeing the news this week of this. I can imagine the headlines if Elon had said, "Hey, we're pulling out of the FSD program, and we're shutting it down." Like, people would have been, the headlines would be quotes from stuff that Elon said in 2019. I mean, so Joe, you mentioned a quote of her talking about the 50 billion in revenue by a certain point. I mean, that would all be, Elon Musk lied, but it's like no one is saying Mary Barr lied, right? No one, and to be honest with you, no one cares. That's the thing about it, right? And more importantly, it's not necessarily that no one cares. It's just that, Tesla does not spend tens of millions of dollars on ads. And so what you have is that a lot of these legacy media, when they know that this is the hand that feeds them, they're not going to be bashing it. I mean, that's ultimately what it comes down to, because this would be breaking news everywhere. They would be doing it for like nonstop for a week. But with Tesla, it's like, or with Cruise, it's kind of like whatever. Now it's like the world's kind of moved on. I think it was Sawyer who said something about, I think the stock is only up 45% in the 10 or 11 years that Mary Barra has been the CEO. I mean, essentially the stock has done nothing. I mean, that's pretty bad.
Billions and billions in buybacks.
Yeah, exactly. So they're all this, those people, the legacy auto people at GM or the employee, they're just getting paid out without innovating, right? I mean, that's what's happening, in my opinion.
Well, that's what I was talking about. Like, people are spending immeasurable amounts of money to just fund anybody who's not Elon, and it's becoming evident that you're not only wasting your investors' money, but you are spending you're spending money that, I mean, it's just,
You're just hanging yourself.
yeah, and it's got to be negligent at some point, right? Like completely negligent for where they stand in the company, for what they do for their company, and for what they do for their shareholders and their communities. It's like, man, you can't just keep doing that. It just seems so negligent.
Yeah. All right. So who would have thought that the Cybertruck would get approved in China? I given the use case there, I did not, this was not on my bingo card for 2025 or 2024, let alone probably not 2025 either. And, Tesla Cybertruck has passed this specification declaration of China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology and is expected to enter the Chinese market in the near future. So I think, that was pretty shocking. I was not expecting that tweet when I saw that this week.
Well, you know what that means? We're going to get Tasty Foundation ASPs for quite a while longer.
Oh, is China a big car market? I did not realize. It is actually, it's huge. It's the US is number 2 at 13 million cars a year, while China's at 23 million. In 2009, they overtook the US market and have never looked back. And if you want something eye-catching, a Cybertruck fits that bill. And there are quite a few millionaires in China who would jump at the chance to get this, even, as Hans said, at Foundation Series pricing.
Yeah, the luxury car market in China is very robust. Like, it's kind of a market where you've got a really sweet high end, then a lot of the stuff in the middle is tough, and you've got a ton of low end options that we don't even have here in the United States. So it's more kind of like a barbell distribution market, but it is huge, and that top end of the market is very, very lucrative. And that was one of the areas where a lot of the legacy OEMs really made their bread and butter over the last 10 years. And that has all just gotten eviscerated in the last 5 years.
Oh, so I don't know what the delay was there. Here, Joe, this one's to you.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty telling. I mean, this came out like just this morning, I think it was. Switzerland has approved fully autonomous vehicles from March 2025 onwards. I mean, that's kind of crazy. So now you have like, you're about to, people have been talking about this, like at least on X. Everybody's not on X, I know that, but 2025 is about, things are about to change, and it's going to hit hard from here going forward. And I don't think people are really ready for it. They think they are, but I don't think they really understand what's about to happen. Even was it that company just started shipping robots? I can't remember, to start with the F, I think.
Figure?
Yeah. Figure just shipped out like boxes of robots just this morning to some warehouse or whatever. So I mean,
Probably BMW.
yeah, I think so. So I mean, people are not really ready for the change that's about to hit them over the next like 3 years. And I mean, I think it's all going to happen way before 2030. I think like 2025, 2026 is going to be like gangbuster, like crazy. I mean, if anybody has seen even Sora, the stuff that's happening with Sora right now, and all the computation that freaking Elon has put into XAI, like what they're about to unlock with the most powerful computer in the world is about to be crazy. Yeah, I really don't think people are really grasping the concept of what's happening.
The next, I mean, we know the next couple years are going to be crazy. I think the projection, at least based on Tesla's last AI update, was that Q1, hopefully they're, China and Europe, depending on regulatory regulations and stuff and approvals, that they were hoping to get, FSD there. But I mean, V13 is out. People are, at least the people that have it, they haven't done wide release. So hopefully they do wide release pretty soon. But from what it seems like, it really is, it's the next huge big step to getting us to being, having a fleet of 3 million plus cars. As Joe would say, safety is sexy. So, as we know, Tesla, if you have not ever bought a Tesla before or been in one, I think what makes these vehicles special, on top of the amazing technology that lives inside of it and runs the actual car itself, is just that it is the safest car that you can pretty much get into. I haven't seen anything from the TSA quite yet on the Cybertruck, but the Cybertruck, I've seen several accidents that have gone out, but either way, it's like, the Cybertruck could go down as one of the most safest cars ever made, if not the safest. But you can see all of these amazing ratings across the board for Tesla. And I think it just goes to show that, when you're driving in a Tesla, ultimately, thankfully the car, in case other people aren't looking out for you, at least you're driving in a safe car. So if someone is drunk or texting while they're driving, if you're hit, you're going to be safer in this car than some of the other cars that you can get into.
I'm very curious to see the crash test footage, and not just one crash test at one speed, but the kind of things that we get to see from ANCAP and all the others. We got that teaser on April Fool's so long ago. Release the director's cut, Elon. Come on, it's time.
Well, I think Cybertruck's listed as commercial vehicle, so I don't really think they really have to. But
Others will.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's been in a Cybertruck and has been in an accident, they went out and bought another Cybertruck. I mean, any Tesla that's I mean, it's par for the course. I mean, we have a member, Sean, who was in a brutal accident, and he got another Model 3. I mean, Teslas are just like the safest vehicles. I mean, that chart is just telling of what we all know. And I think when FSD becomes like more prominent, I mean, like, we all drive now, and our only concern is not our driving habits, but the driving habits of others. When everybody's autonomous driving, then there's going to be way less accidents. And
All the other drivers are lunatics. There's no denying it.
every other driver.
Joe, this one's for you.
Yeah, so China marks safe from fires. So Tesla, I mean, this is pretty awesome. Like, Model 3 earned top marks in both China Electric Vehicle Fire Safety Index and the Automotive Fire Safety Certification. So China is just like, they're doing things on another level, and we don't get a lot of like these type of certifications like over here. Whereas I think stuff like this would like be huge for Tesla to advertise. And Tesla Asia put this out, but I mean, that's like, it's a big thing because you see all these fires happening, and they're not. I think there was I don't know, like a Wuling Mini that caught fire the other day, and the guy just hops out at an intersection and starts running. And I mean, that's not even like, I mean, it was crazy. The car just like started catching fire right in the cockpit, like, and he just hops out. But I think like this type of information goes a long way for Tesla, and they need to be shouting this from the mountaintops. I mean, they're not, but they should be.
All right. So some other news that kind of broke. I don't think anything was shared that was not already made public, because it's not like, at least from my understanding, and I think maybe y'all chatted about this week, but you cannot give like one bank exclusive information outside of all the other banks, right? So when you share stuff with investors, or really banks, to make, with analysts, you're sharing information that is going to be provided to pretty much to everyone, right? You're not going to it's not like they're going to pull aside like a Deutsche Bank analyst and say, hey, yo, this is the word on the street, right? They're not going to do that. But there was more news this past week about what is being dubbed as Model Q, and essentially that this is the $30,000 vehicle. So I think that was interesting news that broke this week. I don't think that this wasn't necessarily anything new that was shared. Maybe it's more of an additional confirmation, or just really partially signal, but it's not really like, I don't think it was anything was shared that hadn't previously been shared, especially when you think of what was shared in the earnings deck as well this past quarter. But what did you guys think about the Deutsche Bank information that broke this week?
I'll go last because I have some spicy thoughts.
I'll go first then. I think that, like you say, this was shared between like more than just Deutsche Bank. I'm pretty sure they told us to a lot of other. I mean, because it was the IR team, right? Like he does this for investors, and what I think is interesting is that they named it themselves the Tesla Q when they told them it was Project Redwood, but they just called it the Q anyways. So they did that themselves. But yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's really weird that they were the ones that spoke out first, when I know there's been other banks, and like you say, this isn't priority information for just this bank. So it's just kind of wild that they spoke up.
The tidbit of information that I appreciated from their report was confirmation of something that I was hoping. Now or at least maybe an additional data point, when Tesla said that, hey, we're going to come out with new models in the new year, including cheaper, smaller, more affordable models. Well, that is, kind of red meat for especially the analysts who have been wanting this cheaper car so that we can move further down the ladder on offerings to those cheaper price points. But that doesn't mean that every car that comes out in the new year is going to be cheaper and smaller. It also leaves room on the table for some that are going to be larger and more expensive, which would offset the ASP impact of delivering cheaper, smaller cars as well. And so they talked about a potential for a longer wheelbase variant of probably the Model Y in that report. And this is definitely something I've been hoping for, and I'm excited to see both a hot hatch Model 3 variant potentially, and a bigger something maybe a Model Y that's equivalent to essentially like a Toyota Highlander in terms of the amount of space in the cabin and amount of seating and storage and all that stuff, which would be a great expansion of the product line.
All right, let's get spicy. This is a single source rumor, and I don't buy it. I never believe single source rumors. I've looked at all the coverage on this, and it all points back to one publication in China. And I've seen ones that no, it's from Inside EVs. Great, let's go find their article. It points back to China. So all of them are circling around and pointing to the same single source. I find it incredibly dubious that Tesla would name a car a Model Q, a Tesla Q. It smacks of poorly written satire. Now it could be true, but I don't believe anything until it's more than one source, and I can't find an original report that actually shows the Deutsche Bank report. Is it so? That would be some good confirmation. Maybe it's already out there and I haven't seen it this morning, but everything I could find, it doesn't look real. Is there a car coming? Yes. Is it a Q? Boy, I don't know, man. So I don't know. I think we're getting ahead of it, and I just get very frustrated by misinformation taking, or at least poorly sourced information, getting all the headlines when people doing real news are getting nothing because we refuse to be sensational. Spicy, I know.
Yeah, but so they called it the Q. It's Project Redwood internally, is what the report says.
Okay, but yeah,
Yeah.
it depends which article you read, because
Right.
they've just run with it.
Yeah. One thing I would say though, aren't we expecting potentially a couple of variants to come off of the same um, base as the Cybercab? Like I would
Yeah.
assume. I mean, you're not going to just like what's happened with the Model 3, Model Y, where you have two variants on top of one base. Same thing with the S and the X. I would assume, especially with this vehicle, that they're going to create potentially some type of more affordable car. Again, we know that that's the Cybercab from what they've revealed, but all the indications continue to just show that maybe there's another vehicle. But I've been sleeping on this, to be honest, and I'm not saying that this source gave me, but it does make sense. You don't just make the Cybercab base, right? They've reduced. I mean, you're the expert now, Brian, on all this. They've reduced over 50% of the cars or parts on the Cybercab from the Model 3, Model Y. It's a one motor front wheel drive. I mean, it's going to be the most efficient electric vehicle potentially ever made. And, I would assume that they're going to make some other variant off of it.
Yes, there will be some variants on all kinds of things. I expect to see a 3Y variant first. That's what we've already had confirmed at shareholder meetings and quarterly reports. So if the article's claim is, yeah, but there is going to be a variant on the 3 or Y coming soon, we already knew that. That's not a new report. I just feel like they're trying to get a little bit of clickbait bump there.
Exactly. All right, Joe, this one's to you, man. New water supply.
Yeah, new water supply contract. So I think this is cool. I mean, as we know, over in Berlin, the water has been like a really big thing, and for them to sew up this contract, I think it just speaks volumes. As we already have reported before, Tesla's already using like a fraction of the water that some of the major automakers over there are already using. So I think this is like really, really good news.
All right, Joe, the other one, maybe this is a better topic. Hit us with this one too.
Tesla has the highest amount of American content. Facts on facts. So as Sawyer pointed out, American universities School of Business has confirmed with their own study that Tesla makes the #1 most American-made cars. Tesla dominates the top spots. I mean, if you were living under a rock, welcome back. You know what I mean? Like it's good to have you here. But yeah, no, we all knew this. I mean, you can look at. Well, besides Ford, like these really aren't even American companies really anymore. So it's good to, I think, like what Tesla is doing can't be understated. And even though people will try to downplay it and people try to hate on it or whatever, this is a great American company. They are doing a lot for our nation and across the world, and it just speaks volumes. I mean, they literally single-handedly changed the entire globe and forced everybody to go into this world that we now know as the tech revolution of EVs. It's crazy.
It's crazy to me to see some of the most patriotic people I've ever met asking me if my car is made in China. My car was made on the West Coast, not that far from. I mean, I drove past the factory last week, so it's a bit of misunderstanding about where the cars come from. I think these figures are including all North American content because the Cybertruck, I think U.S. only content was more like 62. Um, and the Fords are probably a lot lower if you discount Mexico, but these are our trading partners. These are our allies. These are our neighbors. What's good for them is good for us. And yeah, let's if you really want to help out your fellow countrymen, buy something that they made. This is how to do it.
Yeah, and I always think, I don't know why I always think of Hans when I think of this, but I just because he lives in big truck county, country, whatever you want to call it. Just because, I grew up going out to that part of Texas, and I just remember it's like, you have people living in these, like, they'll have like a trailer, but they'll have a F-250 diesel. So that's what I remember growing up to, especially like Tyler and Chandler, Texas. But either way, it's just it's crazy, like just thinking like the people that are putting these huge flags in the back of their trucks and wearing them cowboy boots and just being shouting out, being patriotic and stuff. Really, they don't know what they're talking about, because if they were about it, they would be all about Tesla. It may not be their jam of driving it. Maybe they don't want to drive a 4-door sedan. They want a truck or something like that. But at least they would not be doing the dumb coal rolling and and stuff that you constantly are seeing. And so I think that if we are to be excited about where America's headed, you're going to be behind a company like SpaceX, like Tesla, because again, the cars are being made here. And yeah, they're making cars in China, but that's for the APAC region. They're making cars in Europe. That's for the European region. And they're even shipping cars from the US to Europe, like the Model 3, or they're actually, coming from China at that point. But it's just, it kind of makes me, not sad necessarily, but just disappointed when you see the miseducation or misinformation that's been poured out to people. And again, you may have an idea of what a Tesla is, or people that drive Teslas. You may have an opinion about them, but at the end of the day, it's like, if you're talking about being patriotic, you're going to be a supporter of what Tesla's doing.
Yeah, there was a Cybertruck that just pulled second place in a truck pool. Wes posted earlier, and it was only second to like a turbo, super modified freaking truck, like that they spent thousands to modify, right? But it came in second only to that vehicle. It beat out every other truck in the truck pool. And for people who want to reference the Whistling Diesel video, there's a reason why there's literally only one video of this failure, and it belongs to a content creator like that. So I do not come at me, bro, for that.
All right. Joe, this one's for you. Before or after the dance, you decide.
92% of EV drivers will never go back. Again, welcome back if you've been living under a rock. It's good to have you here on watching our show. But like, who once you do it, you realize like you do not want to do anything. You don't want to have to worry about your fan belts. You don't want to have to worry about your freaking spark plugs, tune-ups, smog checks, and like oil change, like all these things. Like once you do it, and acceleration is one thing because it's like instant torque on any EV. And I think that's what's happened to a lot of people. I was talking to somebody about like how the dynamics of all of this is changing, and how like even if you're just doing basic math, like the math works for an EV. Like it just, no matter how much you're spending on gas, and you're being nickel and dimed once you start to do all the work and really pull out all your papers and realize how much you're spending like for all these things. And so, yeah, most people who buy an EV, they never go back because they realize like, just like going HD TV, you know what I mean? Like there are so many people, oh, I can see the game just fine. And but then once they got HD, they were like, well, I'm never going back to that again. This is the same thing that's happening.
You think you can see the game just fine, but you can't. Well, I'm going to be anxious because I'm always going to be worried about them running out of charge, except I'm not, because I always know my state of charge when I leave the house. It's whatever I set it at. Yesterday, I drove 2 hours, an hour down to Portland and an hour back. Never once thought about my state of charge. And when I got home, I just plugged it in and it's good to go. So I don't want to have to wait an hour to charge on the road. Great, don't buy a Hummer because that's the only one that takes that long. So when I'm on the road, I never think about it, and when I'm home, I never think about it. So it just works.
So one thing I did want to say, this is kind of Tesla, but it's really all of the stuff that Elon's doing. Obviously, we know that Tesla has gained about $700 billion in market cap in the past 6 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever you want to call it. But really, all of Elon's companies in the past couple of weeks, there's been more information coming out. Like SpaceX now valued at $350 billion. They actually could not get employees to willing to sell enough shares. Like that's how crazy, the SpaceX is because everyone knows that this company is multi-trillion-dollar company. And then XAI obviously had another, they raised as well, but they're worth 50 billion. So Tesla, just like I said, Elon has created, 1.8 trillion combined. And a lot of these companies are just beginning at the same time. So I think, Elon, again, it's one of those weird things I can say that it's like, billionaires, obviously, a lot of them want to just continue to make more money. But typically, when they make a certain amount of money, they just kind of let off the pedal. You can clearly see that there's something else motivating someone like Elon, because he's not just sitting on a yacht. He doesn't have the trophy wife that he's just sitting and just chilling and drinking a margarita. This guy is working hard, right? I mean, you see it with what he did with XAI, bringing on 100,000 GPUs in 14 days when only 30,000 could even be was barely even imaginable to do. He did it 3x. So it's just like, Elon's doing a lot of good, and it's really exciting to be, to be really kind of an early adopter to see what he's doing. And I think in a lot of ways, I mean, Tesla's valued at 1.3 billion without releasing the robot. I mean, this is just so once you release probably the biggest product to ever launch, I mean, this company is potentially going to be the most valuable company. And then SpaceX too, that's a big sleeper. And then XAI, I mean, when you look at what OpenAI is doing, just think of now you have the greatest mind in the world. And he technically started the other one. But now, he's doing amazing moves with XAI. So, and really all its companies are doing amazing things. All right. So quick upbeat. quick section on, we'll throw a topic to one of our panelists and get their thoughts. Let's go to Hans first. That's a serious ad for Tesla. Looks like SiriusXM is running ads on about their app. Go ahead.
I love that people are advertising this, but I honestly didn't know that anyone still listened to SiriusXM.
Same.
I thought the same, but you said it.
Ryan, I think uses SiriusXM.
Which Ryan?
Oh, sorry. The
Ride the Lightning?
Ride the Lightning.
Okay. All right. That's a serious ad for yes, it is. All right. Brian, to you. Idra, new 9,000 ton press.
Yeah. So Idra was one of the pioneers of these giant gigapresses, and there's a new one, and Sandy managed to get a picture of it going out there. Or I guess, is that not Sandy? Well, at any rate, it's shipping out, and
That's Luca.
Oh, that is Luca? Well, okay. Then, but at any rate, yeah, that red color should give you a hint as to where it's going. Now, we don't know which location will be receiving it. There was footings put in at Fremont last year, which they then just paved over with asphalt. So it could be going to, and that would make sense for it to go to Fremont, or, I mean, yeah, really Fremont's probably my best guess, or Berlin, as they begin to start working to roll out the Juniper, is my speculation.
All right, Joe, the next one to you. Selling as fast as it is 0 to 60.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty cool. Car dealer is showing that the Model 3 was November's fastest selling used car, EVs and SUVs flying, off the shelf. So this is pretty awesome. I mean, you're looking at a 14 days of turnaround. Like, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at some of the prices that I've seen for Tesla used, it's just a no-brainer, especially if you can buy it from a trusted dealer. Or more importantly, I would probably go with just Tesla directly. But just to make sure you kind of cut out the middleman and talk to the experts.
Yeah.
But, this is, when you're looking for a used car, if you're looking for a 4-door sedan efficient car, I mean, Tesla, the Model 3 is going to be the number one car you should go get. All right, Brian, back to you. Tesla and Nissan.
This is just the latest in the string of companies that is actually going to be able to charge. The supercharger network has been opened up to others, and this is this is the latest, just the latest. It's nice to see it when you're out on the road. You'll get a lot of other brands starting to show up at superchargers, and they're usually quite gracious and stay all the way down at the end because a lot of them have their charge ports in the wrong spot.
Yeah, I was at my local Murata Inn location. There's a Hummer EV that was parked it was charging at the supercharger, and I was like, that's pretty cool to see.
All right, we'll do a couple more of these. Hans, we'll throw this one to you. Car and Driver 2025, 10 best cars, Model 3 long range.
The Model 3 Highland is a kick-ass car. And if you want to hurry out and get one off inventory on Tesla's website, you should do that. And when you do, you should use my referral link. It's pinned in my X profile.
And his profile handle is tagged as well.
At Hans C. Nelson on X.
Exactly. All right, Joe, we'll throw this one to you. Robotaxi rides.
Robotaxi rides take way more longer than in a Tesla. So this is pretty awesome. So because Waymo does not have freeway access, they took 45 minutes, about 40 minutes to get to the same destination as Omar did in the Tesla. So he just put it on FSD. Same ride took about 15 minutes, and in Waymo it took about 40. So that was pretty telling.
Waymo longer.
Waymo
Well,
longer.
Thank you again. I just want to say thank you to everyone. Joe, Brian, Hans, Joe, special shout out for the deck. Sorry, Joe was not officially tagged. I spelled it SJV Esla, but I tagged him in the comments. But either way, give everyone a follow. Use our referral codes as well. You guys heard it here. I'll actually need to Brian in because I think when we started this, when you guys joined the podcast, we didn't have your the referral program wasn't really around. So we'll need to
I only
put
have
that in
one
the
more to
comments.
go.
Nice. Well,
All
it
right, well,
resets.
when you're famous like Brian, you don't. If you're thinking about using Brian's, use mine. I'm joking.
Or
use
Hans's, he
Hans.
needs it. But Joe, he's all set.
No, I'm not all set. I think I've got one person that bought like a vehicle on mine.
But
Thank you guys.
Thank you again. Have a great week, and we will catch you guys all next Friday.